All right. Talking about that, actually, during Professor Huo, during Obama's visit to China, two issues are the most crucial one and the most the issues that they're drawing most attention to. One is, of course, the energy consuming. The other is the trade frictions between China and the U.S. and revaluation of the RMB, for instance, is being closely watched during Obama's visit. Pressure on China to let the yuan rise is growing. What's behind these considerations?
Well, China is still a developing country, as said many times. And of course, for Chinese national interest, we have our own agenda. But that agenda might not be agreeable to the rest of the world. I guess the U.S. is, as a frontier country that knows that it will always promoting the idea of free trade. But sometimes free trade means beneficial to the developed country, but not necessarily to the developing countries. So in this aspect, the U.S. is very concerning about China's renminbi policy, exchange rate policy. Now, from their perspective, of course, it's alleged that renminbi has been devalued or undervalued for a long period of time. If not for the past economic crisis, renminbi perhaps has gone on all the way up to the roof. But since the crisis now probably near to the end, so Obama this time want to raise the issue that, hey, let's talk about renminbi exchange rate policy. I guess that's a gesture, but it's also a potential sort of threat.
Do you think this is the issue that going to be put on table during Obama's visit to Beijing?
I doubt it. I doubt it, simply because it's too sensitive.
Indeed, indeed. Well, Qin Gang said on one of the press conferences that China will not make a single step backward on the currency issue. And China exports fell by 21.3% during the first 9 months of the year compared to the same period last year. He said that slump was caused in part by the problems with the value of the US dollar. And he said it is time for the currency, for Chinese currency, to appreciate instead of deep appreciating.
Well, I guess for United States, really the appreciation of China renminbi exchange rate means that if the import for U.S. is much going to be more expensive, and so that might not be a good way to look at things from U.S. perspective, but to some other countries, for instance, Thailand or Malaysia or probably India, they would like to see a appreciation of renminbi, simply because if renminbi kept undervalued as they alleged, then it's going to be pressuring on those countries, India, Thailand, so on and so forth. Simply means the costs on their part will be quite squeezed. And so I guess from my perspective, what I've seen is that for those developing countries, they've been putting more pressures on China to appreciating renminbi. And for U.S., I guess it's less of a concern.
Yes, well, in your view, because China's market economy status is still not recognized by the U.S., do you think it will be recognized in the future? Or as the outcome of the
China in a WTO since 2001, so by status that 15 years after, namely in 2016, China will be a market economy status anyway. So, but from now to 2016, there are about 7 years. So there are a lot of many countries will be nitpicking on China for its non-market status, namely a lot of anti-dumping issues can be raised. So whenever we see this anti-dumping case, we understand, as I understand it, that there are a lot of politics involved, and not necessarily really the dumping issue.
China has repeatedly, well, the trade deficit is, of course, a very important issue, and revaluation of RMB is being closely watched. Do you think it's contradictory that Obama, because it's cannot be a worse timing for Obama visit to China, as the frictions, especially the trade frictions, have been escalating, especially in this year, and there's been 9 double ban, anti-dumping measures taken by the U.S. government. Do you think it's contradictory that on one hand is promoting the trade between the two countries. On the other hand, the trade frictions are escalating.
I guess we have to keep in our mind that Obama is a very tough president. He might be very lenient in terms of verbal, but his action shows his determination, or at least show his strength to the United States citizens. Namely, that he's calling for a trade, mutually beneficial trade, and also a laissez-faire free trade. But on the other hand, he is the president taking office less than a year, but he signed up on many anti-dumping issues against China. So I guess you have to be really careful on what Obama said and what Obama has been doing. And this aspect, I'm be very careful on his presidential terms.
Actually, in one of the meetings previously in this year, agreement was reached that both sides, both the China side and U.S. side, will not worsen the trade frictions between China and the U.S. What do you think that the both countries need to do to
I guess both countries
happening?
Really need to do things carefully, simply because, you see, now the trade disputes are really a tiny amount of total trade volume. For instance, I think that 5 billion trade issues are involved, while the trade in volume is like 400 billion, so about 1%. So really, they are really minor issues. If we make this issue big enough so that Japan or European unions and take an anti-dumping case against China, that will be a global issue. So I guess for both countries, we better turn down the tune and try to keep everybody calm.
Well, the common threat is something that we're facing. It's not the frictions that we should be facing. All right, that's Professor Huo Deming from Peking University. And with the discussion, we come to the end of this edition of Biz China. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing. Thanks for watching.